Hello, welcome to this video. I'm just going to jump straight in and start talking about how I use the Page Assist in Procreate to create a digital sketchbook. Here you can see me just flipping through the sketchbook with the Page Assist bar at the bottom, and I'll show you in just a minute how to get the Page Assist set up on your iPad, but for now, this is the kind of stuff that goes in here, pretty loose stuff. I'll talk a bit more about my process in about a minute. And next I'm just going to show you to keep in mind when using Page Assist, one layer is one page. So you can see here I'm looking through the layers and every drawing has its own layer, but if you want a complicated thing that maybe has colouring and line art, it needs to be in a group to be considered a page. Here I'm just going to take my signature out and it becomes a new page in the sketchbook. So there is a way to do more complicated sketches, they just need to be in a group, and you can even flatten them if you want them just on one layer. And to turn on Page Assist, you just click the spanner in the corner, go to Canvas and then go to Page Assist, and just like that you have your sketchbook set up. So the reason I set up this digital sketchbook is because I haven't done like the traditional sketching in like 5 years. I do it every now and then for college, but not really a thing that I do actively anymore, and because I work mostly digitally, I wanted to get back into that and start expanding my visual vocabulary, and I'm doing that by creating a digital sketchbook. I also find like when you're sketching digitally, it always turns into a finished piece. Like it's very hard to just have sketches. Like everything has to be pretty, everything has to be perfect, you have to zoom in and get all the shapes, and I really want to get out of that habit and just sketch like I normally do as if I was on paper, because that's a habit that every artist should have. In this piece you can see that I'm not really zooming in, I'm only really zooming in when I have to, and for the majority of it I do stay zoomed out, especially in the colouring process. I don't think I zoomed in much at all. So in order to sketch this, I kind of forgot to record the first like 20 minutes of it, where I used a really big sized brush at a low opacity to get these blocky shapes in. That's what that orange tone is. And then I made the opacity higher and then lowered the size of the brush so that I could get more clear shapes in, and that's what the pink is. And I started recording when I switched to a pencil brush and started ironing out exactly what those shapes are and what they're supposed to represent. When I'm sketching in this digital sketchbook, I try to get into the mind frame of sketching in a real sketchbook. Like I picture myself on a piece of paper with a pencil, and I find that helps me to be more loose with my shapes and with my lines, so that it becomes more natural and it's not so stiff and I guess digital. And when I work traditionally, I normally use what's around me, like whatever's in my pencil case, I'll just pick it out and use it. And something I started doing was using a Crayola marker in yellow to do the base sketch, and then going over that in a pencil to get those shapes. So that's here, I'm trying to replicate that, like just using what I have in my palette to create something. And normally I use pinks and oranges for like the blockiness and getting the shapes down, and I normally use a blue on top of that for the line art and the clean lines. Here I'm just using a brown because I thought it would suit the colour scheme better. And yes, that is kind of the whole process of sketching and line art. I'm having to re-record this bit for the third time now because it like glitched out and didn't record it, so hopefully it works this time. But while I'm finishing up these lines, I am just going to talk about why I picked this reference. And when I want to sketch and when I want to be loose and warm up for drawing, I normally go onto Pinterest and pick out a reference, and when I opened Pinterest, this was like one of the first things looking back at me. So the reason I picked it was because I really like that character from, I think it's called like New Kids Next Door or something like that, and it's the green girl with the long hair that covers her eyes, and I really wanted a character like that for a while, but I never really thought of a way to do it. So as soon as I saw her hair, I was like, yeah, I'm taking it. And then Another aspect I liked was the coat. The coat is super oversized, and I always loved it in cartoons. I think Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, they do it where like the character's torso is like really big and puffy and the legs are really skinny, and I really wanted to replicate that and use this reference to emphasize the size of her coat. I also wanted to learn how to draw the folds because I really need a visual memory of that so that I can draw clothing from memory, because that's something that I've always struggled with, so I'm slowly building up my knowledge on that. And here you can just see I'm just zooming in and doing all the final details, and I think I'm just going to leave it there for now, and I will pop back in whenever I start colouring. And now I get to talk about my favourite bit, which is the colouring. For me, I use an oval sketch brush in this one, which I made myself. Actually, all these brushes I made myself, so I guess I'll have them linked in the description if you want to try them out. I think they're €2 on Gumroad. So yeah, anyway. Colour theory is like a whole thing on its own. Like, I could make a whole video on colour theory. Not that I'm super knowledgeable on it, but I like to think I know a little bit. But for this, I went into it knowing I wanted to use muted colours, and I chose every colour based on that idea, and I did use the reference as a guide. Like, I kind of stuck to it a little bit, especially for the tones, because one thing I try to keep in mind when colouring is not to put two of the same tone next to each other. I'll talk about that a little bit further in when I have more of it coloured, and I'll put it in black and white, and you'll kind of see a bit better how the tones like look next to each other. In terms of colour picking, I try to pick like 1 or 2 main colours and 1 accent colour. So here it's kind of a green and blue, kind of blue is like the main colour, and then I guess green, and you'll soon see like an orangey mustard colour becomes the accent colour. That's just what works the best for me. You can pick from a plethora of colours, like obviously the colour wheel and stuff like that, like I said, could be its whole own video, and if that's something you would like me to do a video on, I would be happy to. Something that I hope you'll notice is that I barely ever zoom in on this piece, like when I'm colouring it. I have stayed zoomed out the whole time, and that was like a conscious decision so that I could see all of the colours working together. Even though it's just a sketch, it's not too serious. This is all like subconscious things that like I was doing while sketching, and it's stuff that I would have done while doing it traditionally as well, which is something I was trying to keep in mind. Like, how would I colour this if it was on paper? How would I go about it if it was on paper? If you're wondering, I'll be posting another studio vlog in a week or 2. I'm very busy with college at the moment, so I'm kind of posting this video as somewhat a filler video, but let me know if you enjoy it and I can do more of them. I'm just going to show you now what this looks like when I turn it to black and white so that you can see how the tones look next to each other. This is my first time seeing it in black and white as well, so I am happy to say that it does have good contrast. You can actually see it matches the reference pretty well, which I wasn't doing like entirely on purpose, but you can kind of also tell that not the same 2 tones touch each other. So for example, dark touches light, light touches a mid-tone, that kind of thing. It's not light touching light, and that's not necessarily the same for every image. Maybe a certain drawing would look better with light touching light. But for me, I like to keep in mind that any colours that are touching each other are supposed to be a different tone, because I think that makes my drawing look better. That's just my personal preference, although I know everyone has their own personal preference on how they like to colour and draw, but this is mine. And I know a very popular way to colour digitally is to start in black and white and then colour on top of it. That way you can entirely focus on the tones. If colour theory is something that you struggle with, colour in black and white and then colour on top of that. Again, that's like a whole colouring style on its own and could be its own video. It's not necessarily the way that I colour because I like choosing colours and like to think that I'm good at it, and I don't know necessarily if I'd be able to do a video on it because it's not the way that I do it. But if it works for you, it works for you. And if colour theory isn't something that you like take too easily, colouring in black and white could definitely be something that could work for you. I feel like I talked about a lot of things in this video that could be their own separate videos, so I'd really appreciate it if you let me know in the comments if you would like me to do more videos like this. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what videos I like to make and what I like to do, and currently I really enjoy making studio vlogs, but they do take a long time, and they take a long time to edit and get the clips for it. And if doing little filler videos like this would be something that you would enjoy watching, then I would be happy to do more of them. I don't really know if I'm good at talking in them, and I don't know if I'm good at explaining myself, but do let me know if it's something you'd be interested in seeing. I've been using this sketchbook for maybe a month, like not a month, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I'm really glad I set it up because if you're someone that works digitally, I think it's nice to have a space for sketching. Like, you can get into that mindset the same way you would when you open a sketchbook. So I would recommend it, and I do hope this video helped. Thank you for taking the time to sketch with me. I do hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed watching, and don't forget to follow me on social media, which will be linked in the description and at the end of the video. So until the next one, bye.